Rodwell. Councilmember Garetano. Councilmember Hopper. Councilmember Jaxie.
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Here.
We do not have a quorum at this point in time. Sure. Right. Yeah, we'll give it a couple of minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right, perfect. We'll give it about 3 more minutes to about 5:35, and then we will decide what we're going to do from there. All right, I just heard from Councilmember Garetano. He is running a few minutes late, but should be here. That would give us our quorum, I believe. In the meantime, I believe we can proceed with public comment if we have any. There's no one in the audience. Travis, anyone online for public comment? Okay. Then why don't we proceed to do the update on business changes and other business news? Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple updates here. For official openings, we have Tresses by Jess Salon located at 16451 Village Plaza View Drive. officially opened on October 4th, and the department is currently working to put together a ribbon cutting ceremony for them. More details to come. Also, fantastic cakes and where to buy them, located at 16962 Manchester Road, formerly the old Imogene's building, officially opened on October 1st and had a ribbon cutting ceremony that same day. Great turnout, and we're excited to have them join our community. As for business closures, I'm happy to announce that there are no new business closures since our last held meeting. And as for business news, just a couple items. First, we have our greenhouses located at 18944 St. Albans Road. They are changing ownership. Pat Belrose is transferring that ownership over to Steve Tramp. The department met with Steve to get him in connection with the planning department so they could discuss that transfer, but it seems like he'll be doing everything the same as Pat, so there's not going to be too much other than just renewing a business license. Also, Prudence Morris was operating out of Tea Tree Behavioral Health and Therapy LLC. He had his own LLC called Three Blue Eggs Counseling. He was located at 2634 Highway 109 Suite E. I'm happy to announce that he is actually moving to his own location, located at 17014 New College Avenue, Suite 206, and will be opening up at his own practice and is looking for additional counselors to come in. So great news there. And other than that, though, that's all I have. Any questions can be asked.
Excuse me. I know that we have Jenny Goski, president of the Wildwood Business Association. I think listening in on this update. So was she making any comments or providing us with any input?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe she was. She said she would be here in the Zoom meeting, so we can add her as a panelist and she can give us an update.
Ms. Goski, thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome.
Oh, perfect. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Wonderful.
being
Thanks
here.
for having me. I appreciate the invitation to be here.
So do you have any additional comments besides those that Mr. Lee provided us?
Yeah. So just a little bit about the WBA, a few updates. We're up to 128 members. Of course, not all of those are active every month in our socials and whatnot. We all do have a event coming up October 30th with Living Word Church. We're having a trunk or treat. We've had it the past few years, so we are excited about that. We have quite a few businesses participating. And then Tom had just asked us to hop on. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions for us, but we're just here just to support however we can. So if you have any questions, we're here to answer those.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Goski? Mr. Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to ask, is there are only members of the WBA allowed to sign up for your event on the 30th, or is that open to any business? And if so, what is the cost associated?
Yeah, so any business can participate. It is cheaper if you're a member. So it's $25 to participate if you are a WBA member. And if you're not a WBA member, it's $50. So you might as well just join WBA. It would just make more sense to do it that way. But yeah, we'd love anyone to join.
Thank you.
It's a really good turnout. We normally have 500 to 700 kids come through.
Very good. Ms. Goski, is there anything else you would like to let us know about regarding the WBA?
Not at the moment. Planning for the tree lighting is going well. We have a lot of businesses who are really excited that the tree lighting or that the decoration of the trees is going forth this year. So we're happy we're doing that again.
And the date for that is when?
December 3rd.
December 3rd. All right. Thank you. And what else can we help you with tonight?
That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to provide us with an update, and look forward to working with you in the future. Have a good evening.
Great. Thank you.
All right. I guess what we will do is move on to under ready for action, review of stakeholder feedback procedures. City
Thank you.
Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we get into that, I just wanted to take a moment and back up on the update on business changes, other business news. What I wanted to do was just make a point of personal observation for the committee and point out my pleasure, if you will, in terms of the job that Tom is doing up to this point. Tom has, in a very short period of time, plugged in very well with the business community. He is making contacts each and every day because I challenged him to cover every business within at least 1 year, if not sooner. And he has accepted that challenge, and he has been meeting with businesses, not only current businesses, but also ones that potentially would want to come into Wildwood. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge Tom's efforts and how quickly he has assimilated himself into the city of Wildwood and our business community and helping with economic development. So I just wanted to take a moment to pass that on to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think many on the committee would second your comments about Mr. Lee's performance.
Thank you very much. I'm very humbled for that, and I'm very happy to be a part of the city.
Perfect. So let's go on and touch base on the review of stakeholder feedback procedures.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, a key component of the Economic Development Guide is community outreach. Originally, this component was designed to identify a set of goals for the city from key stakeholders in the Wildwood business community. It was recommended that the city conduct interviews with 10 to 15 stakeholders. Back in 2021, my predecessor identified 16 stakeholders and conducted interviews with 10 of the 16. This was the only component included in the community feedback portion of the Economic Development Guide update. That being said, the department recommends adding 2 additional tactics to our program for getting that community feedback. To be specific, the department recommends a motion to approve the following: conducting new interviews with approved stakeholders in the community and the approval of the questions listed in the document provided, development of a survey for all Wildwood businesses, and approval of the questions listed in this document as well. Lastly, quarterly meetings with Wildwood business owners, property owners, brokers, and land developers also outlined in this document. If approved, the department will consolidate the findings from each tactic and report them directly to the Economic Development Committee. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So that's under ready for action. And since we don't have a quorum at this point in time, we can't really take any action on that particular issue. Oh, Councilmember Brost, I apologize.
Yeah, I had a question that maybe relates to what Mr. Lee was just saying and maybe on the past, but what is the definition of a Wildwood business?
Thank you, Councilmember Brost. A definition of a Wildwood business would be anyone that is registered with the city of Wildwood under a business. So that could include home occupation, that can include retail, office manufacturing. Pretty much if you are in the boundaries of the city of Wildwood and you are working in the commercial space or selling a good or service, you are technically a Wildwood business.
And Mr. Brost, if I may, at the present time, we have approximately 275 registered businesses. That is storefronts, retail, as well as home occupancy.
If someone's working from their home, do they need to be registered as a Wildwood business?
Yes.
Okay, because I would think 275 would be low. I was just curious if it reached out to the home-based businesses, because I think that's where our real sweet spot for growth is. I know we want to rent space, but I mean, the quality of life and all that, particularly as eventually internet will be done. But I was just curious if that included home-based, because and 275 seems low to me, but maybe there's an honor system in registering or something. But I'm glad at least in concept, includes home-based businesses. So thank you.
So just a point of clarification, City Administrator Cross, when we talk about working from home, how would someone who is a salesperson for a company who simply has an office in their bedroom fall into that definition?
That is not a home-based business.
All right,
Home-based
perfect.
business is in fact someone who is conducting retail business from their home, not just simply working off-site from a other location.
Perfect, thank you.
And to Mr. Brost's point, Councilmember Brost, there is somewhat of an honor system if there are probably a couple of businesses that are operating within the city and selling product out of their home that we are unaware of. We do everything that we can, but yes, there is an honor system attached to it that if they choose not to let us know, we would only find out through someone reporting them or some other means. But right now that number stands at about 275. And I'm actually looking across the room because we have our deputy city clerk here in the room learning to take notes. And so Colleen, just with a shake of your head, at about 275, is that a correct number? And of that, home-based businesses would be about how many? 120 that are registered. So, but Mr. Brost, that number could be higher.
Do you think there's any way to reach out to that salesperson or individual that works from home because I think that number would double, and then try to reach that population to maybe get more engaged with the city. I think that's one of the strengths we have, only because of, Wildwood's a great place to live, and that's why we have a lot of people out here. And I'm not sure if there's something there or not, but I think there's an untapped area there that potentially could provide more energy for the city, both in attracting people and then eventually, as internet gets done, is a place to live and work. So I don't know if but I just think that's where we have, because we're a bedroom community. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Councilmember Brost, to that point, again, if someone works for a company that is based out of Clayton, let's say, a CPA firm of whatever, if they simply have the flexibility through their business to either work from home full-time or even part-time back and forth, that does not meet the definition of a home-based business, and therefore would not qualify, would not be required to obtain a business license. And so in those circumstances, that is not an untapped. Now, someone working from their home clearly lives in Wildwood, if we're talking about those types of individuals who hopefully know the benefits to live here, work here out of their home. But those are not business. Those individuals are not included in any of our numbers, and they are not part of what we would classify as a home-based business.
Well, let's change the definition. I'm not saying go out and have them require a license or something, but a way to reach those people and better promote, that aspect of Wildwood, because that is definitely something that is going to grow over time, particularly, again, as I said before, with internet. But I'm not looking for license fees or registered businesses. I'm looking for ways to promote the overall lifestyle of Wildwood. And maybe there is a way to reach those folks that enjoy working from home, because we are such a great community here. So, but technically not a home-based business. So, but I just think we have an area there that we could, benefit in reaching out to these people. So, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this particular subject? All right, we now have a quorum. So what we will do is go back to the third item on the agenda, which is approval of minutes. Is there any discussion on the minutes from the last meeting? If none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Made by Councilmember Jaxie, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carried, minutes approved. Thank you. We covered public comment already. We covered the update on business changes and other business news. The Wildwood Business Association update. So that brings us then to under ready for action review of the 2023 budget, which was sent out earlier. City Administrator Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This should not take very long. This is one of the smaller budgets that we deal with. I'm not going to go through it line by line. You all have had an opportunity to review it. Most of the expense, of course, is in personnel expenditures, and no need to discuss that. With regards to operating expenditures, the one item that probably stands out to you all is an increase in the line item entitled Community Relations Economic Development. And I'll take you back to the conversation at the last Economic Development Committee meeting. We plugged in an amount of $10,000, which is to develop a marketing campaign for the Live, Work, Play campaign that Mr. Lee will be undertaking. So we did earmark $10,000 and kick that line up. The rest of that is just for just marketing efforts in general on behalf of the city. The rest of the items are quite small and just basically follow suit of the expenditures that we've incurred over the last 1 or 2 years and use that as a historical guide to what we would present in 2023. So relatively small budget, but I'm certainly available to answer any questions if anybody has anything specific.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yeah, my question is on the section 2023 budget goals number 3. And it says continue to host a new special event programming in collaboration with the Wildwood Business Association. And our speaker just mentioned the Christmas tree lighting on December 3rd. Several years ago, they came and asked us to provide funding. And then they wanted the city to put up in front and they were going to reimburse us. Council voted that down twice. Then the last time they were supposed to foot the bill and council got stuck with a $9,000 bill. So can you tell me what the purpose of this is, or where we're going with this? Are we going to fund this?
Mr. Chair, with your permission.
Absolutely.
Ms. McCutcheon, your memory is correct, particularly as it relates to the 2021 event, the tree lighting ceremony. It is an event that is a big draw for the city and brings a lot of people to town center, families in particular. What occurred last year, whereby, and this event is an event that is planned and executed by the WBA, the Wildwood Business Association, with the support of the city. And that's the way it has always been. However, last year, for various reasons, the city needed to step up to ensure that the event took place. We could not allow it to not happen. So yes, and that number, it was north of $9,000. In fact, it was double digits that it cost the city to make sure that there was a tree, there were carolers, there was a Santa, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To prevent that from happening again this year, I called a meeting of all the parties, and that included Ms. Goski as president of the WBA, as well as internal folks, Tom, myself, Mr. Vunich, et cetera. Made sure that there was an assignment of tasks and who was doing what, and I made sure that the majority of those tasks were assigned to the WBA. And then I've asked Mr. Vunich in particular to stay very in touch on a regular basis with Ms. Goski to make sure that milestones are hit, dates are hit, commitments are made, and and so forth, so that we don't get it to the 11th hour and 59th minute whereby the city needs to scramble to make things happen. So I am anticipating, given what I've seen, and I mean, we had that meeting back in September. So we started the planning very, very early this year to make sure we avoided a repeat of what occurred last year. So far, I am hopeful that everything is on track right now, and I will continue to monitor the situation with Mr. Vunich, because he is the point person with Ms. Koski.
So I don't see, unless I'm missing it, any allocation for that event in this budget.
That would fall within that $18,000 amount. 10,000 is earmarked for live, work, play, but there's another $8,000 to cover expenses for community type events, such as the tree lighting ceremony.
I think it's a wonderful event. I want to be economically, fiscally responsible. So I just want to make sure we've got it budgeted and we know it's coming.
It is budgeted, but I do not expect to spend hardly any money at all. I fully expect there will be some expenditures for the city, certainly, but not to and nothing what occurred last year.
And then Councilmember Dodwell.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Councilmember McCutcheon. I guess that reminded me of something that came up last year when we were talking about this event, and whether is it truly an economic development type of event, or is it an event that belongs more in the planning and parks, especially since it happens at night when most of the businesses are closed in town center. So is that Mr. Cross looks like he might have
I misspoke.
finished my sentence.
I misspoke. And Mr. Lee just reminded me that yes, that is why Mr. Vunich is spearheading the efforts, because any dollars that the city would spend are under parks. And I misspoke and I said it was on that line item, and Mr. Lee corrected me. So you are absolutely right. This belongs in parks. This is not an economic development.
So, Mr. Lee, thank you very much for pointing out that clarification. You earned the compliments that Mr. Cross was kind enough to give you earlier this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Garetano, any other comments?
No, I think that's the right place where it belongs, especially given all the other events that are very similar to that. Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Dodwell.
I was going to ask the same question, but I also wanted to know whether or not we have reached out to any businesses who would like to participate in that event as a means to open their businesses while that's going on, if they are here in town center, so that people can traipse on in to have a meal or a hot toddy or a early Christmas shopping event.
So
Mr. Lee.
thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have talked during that meeting with Ms. Goski. We did discuss the one aspect where I would be able to help in some regard. Obviously, this will fall under the parks and staying in touch with, getting the actual event planned and organized. But when it comes to reaching out with businesses, finding vendors, specifically food vendors for the event, I have been able to provide assistance to Ms. Goski, and I've reached out to any business that I've met with over the past, since we met back in September. I've brought it up to them and made sure that they were well aware, along with keeping them posted just in general remarks. I keep it in consistent basis, keep in touch on a consistent basis with every business I've met with. So it's definitely something we've been promoting, and a lot of interest has been shown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or input regarding the proposed 2023 budget? If not, then I would entertain a motion for approval. Councilmember Dodwell, motion to approve. Is there a second? Councilmember McCutcheon, second. All those in favor of approving the budget for 2023, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Motion carried. Proposed budget approved. Councilmember Dodwell.
I do have one request that once the final budget is approved, that at one of our meetings in January or at the latest February, that we get from our economic development communications manager kind of a layout of what he foresees using those funds specifically towards what program tasks he plans on doing throughout the year, just so we can help support that effort going forward with our meetings. If you don't have everything lined out, that's fine. Just, I think it would be helpful for the committee as a whole to understand what we need to be working towards as we go to each of our meetings.
So so not to assume I understand what you mean, but you're looking for sort of a schedule of expenses, what and when.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. That's a much better definition. I tend to.
Yes, that would be no problem. And I will get that prepared for you by January and February, that area. But yeah, I think that's a great idea just for, guiding our conversations throughout the year as well. There's a lot of ideas poking around in this head of mine. So I'm excited to be able to share how we will be spending this budget. Thank you so much.
All right, Councilmember Brost, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I guess the question for Thomas is that, as Steve mentioned, this is a really small budget, and I would agree with that. And economic development is always sort of, we all probably can define it different ways as to how it fits in with the city. But I guess my question is that if you found yourself successful with the city, where would you see this budget in 5 years?
Thank you, Councilmember Brost. If we see success, I think a lot of it will come from the success from an initial. I think this live, work, play campaign that is going to be going up in 2023 will be a great indication of how we can reshape our public relations. So if the budget, if the campaign goes well, I think that we could eventually start allocating more funds towards that public programming. I do have a good example, but I don't have the resource on me, but O'Fallon, Illinois, they actually worked with a digital marketing firm to pretty much they were really lacking in their website and in their efforts with digital in general. And what they were able to do is over the course of about 2 to 3 years, create their own website for economic development that didn't look as city official. It looks more like a welcoming pamphlet, along with that being, just other items where they were able to connect with the community where it's not just, directly calling individuals. But when it comes to, utilizing this budget, the main thing would be to, carry on, like I just said, more outreach programs, but on top of that, meeting with more individuals within the St. Louis area that are developers, are individuals that are looking to invest in our community. And that's where a lot of that community relations comes in, is potentially throwing more events that can have these individuals come in under the stakeholder procedures, feedback procedures that I had discussed. I brought up bringing in, every quarter, individuals that come around a round table. Every business is welcome in Wildwood to be able to voice their concerns, voice their opinions, and voice their successes. I think that, that's going to be a great place to learn as well, figuring out where the weaknesses are, where the strengths are within our business community itself. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the budget will go towards just getting our message out there and communicating a clear directive and making it, making Wildwood open for business, if you will, if that makes sense. But more than happy to answer any follow-up questions on that answer.
Well, if I'm listening to what you're saying, is that you're saying really over the next 5 years, you're not really seeing the need for much more money than what's being allocated today.
At this point, I do believe that there will be a time, if it all depends on how, you said it great, that everyone kind of has a different definition of how economic development fits into, our city specifically, because we are very unique in that sense. In that case, I do think that the budget could increase over 5 years. I definitely think that we will not probably remain stagnant as I get my footing a little bit more and I, get a little bit more of the programs put in. There's a lot of different ideas out there, and we're kind of, at this point still testing the waters with a couple of them. But by the end of 5 years, I would hope to have a little bit more of a budget, and also have the ability to have more events and have a better partnership really with the WBA to really enhance their offering as well. So we can, kind of create a sense of community. But I do think that there could be, substantial gain, substantial increases in the budget as we see success, but definitely don't want to, trip the gun a little bit here and, go forward and keep, adding budget whenever it's not necessary. If we're not seeing the return, it's really all about the return on investment from this point. So I think that really a great tool here will be to see, from January 1st to December 31st the following year in 2023, what happened? What's our occupancy rates after that? How have they improved since my last report I sent out? I think we can really get a better understanding of these different items as we kind of benchmark this. And like Council Member McCutcheon mentioned, scheduling out how this budget will be spent this year, this upcoming year. We'll look at that, see the success from each individual component, and then be able to see which ones which tactics, which events, if you will, we might want to invest more into in the future. But during the next session, I will definitely be looking at all those options whenever I'm putting together when we're putting together the economic development budget.
City Administrator Cross.
Thank you. Councilmember Brooks, good question. From my perspective, because apparently I'm just going to be here 5 years from now and we'll still be approving this budget. So,
Sorry to hear it. Sorry to hear that, Steve.
well, nobody called me smart. That's for darn sure. But I really see an increase in this budget in two respects. And I will echo Mr. Lee's comments that the line item called community relations, that would increase as we bring and undertake other marketing campaigns, targeted marketing campaigns to increase economic development within the city. But I will also mention that you will recall that Mr. Lee holds two titles, economic development / communications manager. And there will be a line item at some point once he gets economic development under his belt on the communication side of it. I have mentioned from the very start that I want to have communications have a single point to speak for the city, and that would be Mr. Lee. And so I want to consolidate those efforts, and that would consolidate those costs, however they may be. We're spending money internally, we're spending money externally in our communications to residents, businesses, et cetera. So I would see that increasing as we develop new tools to communicate and how we want to do that through a new website, through whatever means that is. So I would see Mr. Bros dollars in that bucket as well. The other items are small ticket items, just normal operating things. But that's where I would see that, salaries will remain frozen for 5 years, so we don't have to worry about that.
Decrease.
Kidding. I just wanted to see if he reacted.
Well,
anyway,
my 2 cents on what, Thomas, what you said, and what I would say I think this year you probably got a lot of great ideas, and I'm confident the 10,000 will be well spent. But you mentioned 2 things that I think would be, if you just drill down into, you mentioned events and you mentioned partnering with the WBA. And I would say is that those are 2 very good comments, or 2 areas. And I think if you again, with the program you have in place coming into 23, I think I believe it will be successful. But then events and WBA, and there's a lot of noise around that, but just stay focused on that. I think that's a good direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brost.
Councilmember Dodwell.
And to tail on Mr. Brost's comments, I think if we can have some of those community engagement sessions be with businesses, what are they looking for, with realtors, business realtors, what are they looking for? What are those businesses looking for? So that they can help us plan what we want to make Wildwood be. We all talk to our citizenry, but I think it would be helpful if we further understood what it is in that community relations piece as to what they're doing. So I appreciate that we have things, activities and events that bring families into the city. But I also think we need to be planning some events that are more business relations focused so that we can determine how we can get the rest of city town center built out, inhabited, and have our daytime activity and spending going on in here.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that brings us down to not ready for action, update to economic development guide. Anything to add there, Mr. Lee?
I just wanted to see if, since we do have a quorum now, Mr. Chair, if we could go back to the review of stakeholders procedures, just to see if we could potentially get a motion there.
Sure. Why don't you recap that if you would?
Yeah, really quickly. What the department here and what we're recommending is a motion to approve the following. It would be conducting new interviews with approved stakeholders in the community and the approval of the questions listed in the document provided. There are some notes removing architect now in Wildwood workspaces since they are looking to sublease their space, but also potentially adding to that stakeholder list, Hidden Valley, the Desco Group, aka Schnucks, and Wildwood Crossing in general. Kyle Brown, who owns Luxor's timeshare selling team and elite member perks, Three French Hens, the Wildwood Hotel, Wildwood Pub and Grill, Benedetto's on Main, DPS Media, and Pasiglia's. That would be the ones that I would recommend adding, but more than happy to hear others. Also, the development of a survey for all Wildwood businesses and approval of the questions listed in this document. And then thirdly, quarterly meetings with Wildwood business owners, property owners, brokers, and land developers, so we can get that feedback to help guide us with the next decisions we make. And yeah, that's the summary, but more than happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Perfect. Questions for Mr. Lee? Councilmember Jackson. A motion to approve Mr. Lee's proposal, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so that then brings us down to next meeting date, which is November 22nd. That is the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. Just a point of information. And then I guess the last thing would be, are there any other questions or comments before we would entertain a motion to adjourn? Mr. Lee. Oh, all right. You had your finger up like this. I didn't.
I just like to make a quick comment.
Councilmember Dodwell.
I want to thank Mr. Lee for the information he provides before meetings that allows us to get through a meeting as quickly as we do, because you do provide a great deal of background information that we're able to glean through and understand where you're coming from. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember.
All right. Unless there's anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilmember Jackson. Second by Councilmember McCutcheon. All right, non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned. I always wanted to do that.